right, Craig, thank you so much for inviting me back.
Of course.
Another fun project.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're still here in Charleston. I have time to learn. I mean, I've been still smiling over my first quilting block.
I'm so glad.
And I'm ready for another challenge.
All right. Well, you said you wanted to embellish some shirts, and so I wore one that
that's
I embellished.
incredible. Oh, wow, that's not printed.
No, this is some fabric that I cut away, reverse applique.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know, there's all kinds of fun things we can do. So I grabbed a Sewing Down South shirt.
Okay.
And I thought maybe we could make something
I would love
magic.
that. That's really neat.
Okay, so this is a long sleeve. And I've seen where they're adding patchwork to the sleeve. So I thought that would be a really fun start.
Okay.
And so let's begin by making some patchwork panels.
Okay.
And then we'll dive into adding them to the shirt.
Interesting.
So you get a little bit of quilting,
All right.
a little bit of embellishing.
I feel it.
Sound good?
Yes.
All right, so I had a bunch of scrap fabric and I got you started a little bit.
Okay.
So I've cut some 2.5-inch squares and some 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangles.
I'm starting to see where the scraps play in everything.
Yes, of course. And so to begin with, we're just going to completely random.
Okay.
So, you know, 2.5-inch squares together. So if you just want to put those right sides together and use your 1/4-inch foot, take one seam. Beautiful. All right, now you can give that a good press. Open it up.
I think a lot of the missing elements when I was sewing pillows, where I was like, there's got to be something else or something I'm missing, I see where that is now.
Okay.
And it exists in this world. Okay, how's that?
That looks great. And so then now, since we've taken that seam, this is a little bit of quilt math for you.
Okay.
Now those squares will match up with this 4.5-inch piece.
Gotcha.
And so we'll fold that over and we'll just take one long seam there.
Love it. Do you do this a lot with your clothes?
You know, I just got started kind of this last winter. I made a couple sweatshirts and my daughter and her friends started having what they like lovingly refer to as granny night at my sewing studio.
That's fun.
And so yeah, her and like a whole bunch of teenagers come over and they've been embellishing clothes, which has been a lot of fun and inspiration for me.
I know it's not new, but it's new to our time right now.
Absolutely.
And it's really bringing out your personality in what you wear has always been, you know, a thing, but now to be able to personalize it with, you know, your own creativity is really neat.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people are excited and proud to share what they've been making.
It's almost like custom ordering clothes,
Yes.
except you get to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Conversation pieces, the embellishments show off how skilled you are with your sewing machine. And
Yeah. And then, you know, you get to share it with your friends.
it's reusable.
Yeah.
Scraps all.
Perfect. And so now we are just going to keep going for a little while. We're going to make a bunch of these blocks.
Okay.
Because we're going to need a bit to finish what we're doing here
Gotcha.
with this shirt. And so same thing. I'll just let you get going. And then once we have a good stack, we'll move on to the next step.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, how's this look?
Oh, it looks great.
This is exciting.
It's perfect.
I had so many baskets of scraps laying around forever. I couldn't force myself to throw them away. And then eventually I did, because I was like, well, you're never going to be able to make a pillow with this.
Oh, now you know. You just start adding one to the other and you're making your own fabric in that regard, basically.
It makes so much sense.
I did want to look for like a little bit of contrast when we're putting these fabrics together. So whether it's a light and a dark or just different colors, even though they're all going to be put together, you just want a little bit of variety so you can see the work that you've done.
That makes sense.
Right?
So it doesn't blend all together.
Exactly. And so now that we have all of your little squares done, we're just going to lay this out into like a little mini quilt, so
Okay.
to speak. And so I just like to kind of flip them back and forth because we have one side that has the 2 patches and one with the long. And so this just gives us a little bit of variety. And so then just like you were sewing your pieces together when we made your block, we're just going to start adding one of these to the other.
Yeah, this is awesome. I've seen so much of this at home shows across the country when people come and visit, and I just think it's so awesome. But I can't, in my head, I was like, how did they do that?
Well, now you know.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to be, I'm telling you, thinking in quilt blocks
Yes.
here pretty soon. You can't get it wrong, I promise. That's the beautiful thing about this is even if you sew it different than I laid it out, it's going to look great in the end because we just want it to look nice and scrappy.
So with the zigzag edges, if you're using a foot that has this guard on it, are you going over the zigzag edges or keeping them on the inside of
That's
the
a great question. It kind of varies from fabric manufacturer to fabric manufacturer. Like some of them have a different rule of thumb. Usually with these smaller pinked edges, they include that as part of the measurement. And so the outside of the point, you would line that up with the straight edge of your fabric.
Okay.
But I always kind of ignore it. My brain just doesn't really recognize it as fabric.
Right.
And so as long as you're consistent in choosing one way or the other, you'll be fine in the end.
Starting to come together. Look at that.
Yeah, it looks awesome. And so we're just gonna keep going until we have this group of 8 blocks all together.
You know, embellishing your clothes, a lot of people say that I've been known to be an embellisher in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Always been kind of a storyteller. Or at least when I go to repeat a story, I like to embellish it a little bit. Yes.
Make it entertaining.
That's why I ended up in law school, and my little brother was the opposite. He'd be like, that's not exactly what happened. I'd be like, it's close enough. It's better this way. So maybe that's why I've always wanted to embellish my clothes.
Perfect. That looks so great. All right, so now we've got those 4 that you stitched. And so same idea. We're just going to add these one after the other at the machine until we get a long rectangle all set.
And there's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, there is, as in contrasting colors and block sizes.
But it's really just, you know, whatever your heart desires. You're just grabbing a couple pieces and stitching them together.
Don't have to overthink the matching.
Don't worry too much about it. All right, so now that we have this ready, this is going to be kind of the foundation of all of our embellishments for this project. And so now we need to take your shirt and kind of prep it.
Gotcha.
So first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our seam ripper.
Okay.
Like I said, it's a tool that comes in handy very often.
And this one's not by accident.
That's right, this is on purpose. And so we're going to remove the pocket.
Okay.
So I'll have you start there. And then we're also going to seam rip this bottom seam of the sleeves kind of from like an inch in from the armpit all the way to the wrist.
Okay, wow. Well, how would you start on the sleeve?
So I like to just find a little spot, and honestly, to be safe, because this is serged, I'm going to turn it inside out so we can really see what we're doing. So let's do that. And then you can see all these layers of stitches that come from the serger. And so I just run along this to get me going first.
Perfect.
To just pop those stitches. I must say that this is probably the most time-consuming part of this project, just because, you know.
Well, we design our shirts so that they don't come undone.
Exactly.
So
and
we're
going to do that on purpose. And so then, you know, we've got that going, and then we're just going to continue on down the sleeve.
Perfect. So will you end up just using pressure to pop some of them, or?
Yeah, you totally can. You have to be careful when you're working with a knit, like a t-shirt material, because it stretches very easily. And so if you tug too hard on those stitches, it's going to distort the edge of that fabric, and when you go to sew it back together, it's going to be more difficult. So your seam ripper really is your friend here. It's just going to be a little bit time consuming, but take your time, and you know, we'll get there.
All right, so we got there.
Yes.
It wasn't, I mean, you can get in a flow, but slow and steady, and honestly, it's kind of therapeutic.
Exactly.
All right, do you want to show me how to take the pocket off correctly?
Yes, and so this top little section here is the most complicated because it has this kind of like reinforcement stitching. And so I just used the point of my seam ripper and came in here really carefully to pop those individual seams to start. And as long as you get those first few out of there, then the rest of it is smooth sailing. Loosens up a little bit. Yeah, and so I do use my finger and get in there, and then you kind of flip it over. And it can be really, really tricky. This thread matches so well, you want to make sure you're getting the thread and not the fabric. Yeah. And then I like to just kind of flip it around here, and I put the ball of the seam ripper down.
Oh, wow.
And that is supposed to help you prevent tearing your fabric.
Yeah, I never knew what that was for. I figured it was for safety.
Well, maybe it is too, but I don't know if it works every time.
Well, no, because the long one is still out there, so I was like, what is this ball for?
Yeah.
It's almost like cutting wrapping paper. It should glide right through.
Yeah, and if you get the right rhythm, and of course jersey is a little trickier than like regular quilter's cotton, And this should just kind of slide through these stitches. So we'll just make our way down.
I can finish this up.
We'll just take our time, and then once we have it all prepped, we can start putting it back together. All right.
Look, I did it.
We did it.
All right.
Okay.
I feel like my partner, Jerry, these are the returns. They're like, our pocket fell off our shirt. And he's like, there's no way that happened.
Hopefully that never happens in real life.
Okay, so I've got the sleeve separated.
That's right. Both sleeves are
Not through the wrist?
not through the wrist.
Okay,
Exactly.
and only up to like 2 inches up here?
Something like that. Just
Okay.
enough that we can, we'll be able to open it up and sew easily. And so that part is all ready to go. Let's just finish prepping this pocket a little bit while we have a second. And so I thought it would be really fun to keep this little bit of the pocket that says
that
Sewing
is
Down
neat.
South. So let's grab this little ruler here.
Okay.
And we're gonna cut out a little 2.5-inch square to save this. And so I am going to just lay this on here, and then we're gonna cut this out.
The tools really do make it so
Oh,
easy.
I did almost forget to tell you though.
Yes.
I made a little template of the pocket with this before
my
I cut
gosh.
it. That would have been bad. So you do want to trace it and make sure you have a little template, because
Smart.
we're gonna replace this.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha.
I traced it exactly like we saw it, and now we're gonna cut it out. So we will just trim this here and here.
So 2 by 2?
2.5 by 2.5. Just because that's the size we've used here. We're just keeping it consistent. And so now we're gonna make just what we call a 9 patch in
Okay.
quilting. So I've got some of those little squares, and we're gonna lay these out into a 9 patch, just like so. And we're gonna put your little t-shirt square in the middle.
Oh, that's cool.
But one thing to keep in mind when you're working with knit like this is this has a lot of stretch and these don't.
Okay.
And so there's a product that I like. It's called Shape Flex by Pellon. So I brought that, and we are actually going to cut a 2.5-inch square of that as well. We're gonna put it on the back, and it's
Okay.
gonna make this a lot easier when you're sewing all these pieces together so that you're not battling this stretch quite so much. And so let's do that
Does
before
it
we...
iron on?
It does. It has a fusible on this side.
Patchwork is a whole nother like world.
Yeah, it's true. And so then with this product, like you said, there's a fusible, so that's the bumpy side.
Okay.
And so you're gonna put the bumpy side to the wrong side of your square. And since this has some screen printing on it, you wanna make sure you don't hit that with the iron. And so we'll put this side up and just press that so that
Okay.
it'll fuse it together.
I'm gonna have to name my iron.
Oh, I hope you do.
Is that a thing?
I don't know if it is, but I like it. I think it should be. Perfect.
Yep.
All right. And so then we are just gonna sew this together into a 9 patch. Since you've done a lot of sewing already, I went ahead and got most of that ready for you. So let's just put our pieces together here. So I did the top and bottom, so all you have to do is sew the middle.
All right, let's see if I know how to do it now.
All right,
I'm gonna take this and fold it there.
that's right,
And I'm gonna do that seam.
that's right.
Wow, it's crazy doing my own product, as in like Sewing Down South shirt.
Yeah, to get to customize it a little
Or
bit.
logo,
Maybe it'll inspire the next collection.
right?
We'll see.
Making things became a business, which is great, and that was my goal, but I forgot why I originally started was this absolute joy that it brings me.
Absolutely, and it's easy to get lost in the, kind of the hustle and bustle of everyday life. And so taking the time to step away and do something that makes you happy and feel fulfilled is important.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking at that anytime I need a reset.
A
And walk into this
reminder.
room and it's,
Yeah.
the setup that you built for me is great.
I'm so glad you like it. Okay, so now we have done the majority of our prep work. So we have our square for our pocket. It looks amazing. You did great. We have our piece of patchwork that we're going to use to add the stripes to the sleeve. And now we can set these aside for a minute, and we're going to cut this, and we're going to add it to our shirt now. So then when you are making this cut, you can really put it wherever you want. You just want to make sure that it's laying nice and smooth, because we are going to have to use whatever piece we cut off of this sleeve as kind of our template on the patchwork.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to you know, lay this nice and smooth. I just use my fingers. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but it would be terrible to cut through it and have like a real jagged edge. Make it much more difficult on us in the long run. And so then the only other thing that you need to keep in mind is this top line of the sleeve, you want to stay straight. So when you're laying your ruler on here, you want to make sure that a straight line here is following that fold line.
Okay.
Because if you're even a little bit crooked, it's going to be, again, more challenging to put this all back together.
Okay.
All right, so if you want to hand me that rotary cutter back.
It's funny because I love putting stuff together, and this is kind of like that except with clothes. But you have to take it apart first,
Exactly.
which I don't know how to take things apart.
So here's, ready or not, cut number 1.
You just cut the sleeve right
Yep.
off.
And we're gonna come back this way.
Oh, wow.
Cut number 2. And so we're gonna hold on to this, of course. We're gonna need both of those pieces. And this is now kind of our template for the stripe that we're gonna add in. And so here is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take that piece of patchwork that we had, and then I am going to use this Pellon again. So this needs to go with the bumpy side up.
Okay.
So the smooth side of this interfacing is down towards the right side of the fabric. And we're gonna lay that, and then we're gonna place our piece that we cut on top of that. And if you want to try and press this, it's gonna be difficult because of the jersey, but just as close to exact as we can get to having this, just don't like tug it too much. Just try and get it to lay flat.
Okay.
That would be helpful. I also grabbed some thread that matches your shirt because when we do some stitching later, you're actually gonna see this stitching. And so I wanted to get some thread that will match. That is great. So now we're just gonna lay this onto our layers that we've made here. And then I'm gonna use my ruler, and whichever one you're most comfortable with. But for this particular technique, I need to cut this 1/4 inch over on the short sides of this seam and 1/2 inch over on the long sides. And that's because of the method we're using. That's the amount of seam allowance you need. And so we are going to line up the 1/4 inch line of this ruler and make a cut. There we go. And then I'm gonna rotate this.
1/2 inch on this
1/2
side.
inch on this side. All right. There we go. And so now this piece, we don't really need any longer. So we're gonna set that aside. And the only other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this off for just a second, and I am gonna put just a slit because we're gonna turn this and it's gonna be on the wrong side. You won't see it. I know, you're looking at me like I've lost my mind, but I promise this is gonna work. And so then now we are gonna sew all the way around this with a 1/4 inch seam.
Okay.
And then we're gonna turn it right sides out.
Okay. Just how it is, right?
Just how it is, yep.
My first time working on clothes. I tried to make a teddy bear one time. It didn't go too well.
The reason we're doing this and using the interfacing for this step is it's going to put all of those raw edges of the seams, it's gonna enclose them in this interfacing. So then when you wear this shirt, you're not gonna have a bunch of, you know, threads and fraying happening underneath.
Very cool.
Beautiful. All right. Okay.
That's done.
And so we are going to turn this right sides out, but to make these corners a little sharper and to get rid of just a little bit of the bulk, I'm just going to trim off these little corners a bit. You just want to be careful not to cut through your stitching. All right, and so then now we can use that opening that we cut to flip this right sides out.
Wow.
And so I prefer having just this one little slit exposed on the inside as opposed to all those raw edges. And so then we can just use...
It's like a French seam almost.
Almost, yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Or the same idea of hiding all the...
Yeah, that's exactly
and
right.
stuff.
And so
Cleans it up
we just need to get those corners as sharp as we can if you have a chopstick or a pencil, but they're laying really nice.
It's so funny. This really is back to my roots.
Yeah.
Even though I bought the machine to embroider my clothes and enhance them.
Pillows became the thing.
Yeah, pillows.
Yeah.
Then I started wanting to use the sewing function of the machine, and all I knew how to make was a pillow.
Exactly. And so then remember there's fusible on this interfacing.
Right.
And so I do kind of like just turn it with my fingers and do a little bit of what we call finger pressing.
Okay.
Before I take it to the ironing board. And then I will let you do that, and that'll fuse it down, and it'll give us kind of one piece of fabric then.
All right. Can't believe I'm making clothes. Part of it. I'm fixing clothes.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're good to go.
Oh, it looks good.
Look at that.
Yeah, that looks perfect.
Every step of this feels like an accomplishment.
Okay, good. I'm
been
so
smiling
glad.
the whole time.
All right, so we have this. This is going to be that center piece that we cut away. We no longer need that piece of our shirt. And so now we're going to take the sleeve and we're going to attach it to this.
Okay, was my downfall with the teddy bear. I couldn't put its arms on. So.
All right, so let's get some pins because you are going to want some pins or some clips, either one, whichever one you prefer. And so I'm going to find kind of the middle.
Clips, I feel like, are easier for me, but
well, let's do that
what do you think works better?
Either one is perfect for this.
Okay.
So let's find this middle point, and I'm going to put a clip in there just for my reference.
Yeah, let's move this.
Yeah. And then the bottom of the sleeve is going to go to the short side of this template that we made. See, this side is shorter than this one. And so then now I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to pin this to the middle.
Oh, how did you figure this out?
I've just made a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This is wild.
And so then we will just add clips to hold this all the way across.
Okay.
Just like so.
And you don't want to stretch your shirt, just lay it flat.
You want it to just lay flat. Okay. And I always recommend, if you're working with cotton and a stretch, put the stretch on top, because if you put it on the bottom, the feed dogs will take more in. It'll kind of make it pucker. And so keeping it on the top is going to make it a lot easier for you. And we're also going to put a lot of clips to just keep it from shifting.
And right side
together. And so this is the right side of the sleeve is towards the pretty side of the fabric. I'm totally overdoing it to hopefully make it easier. All right, and then just a 1/4 inch seam.
Okay.
Yep.
We've been working towards this.
Just as close as you can get it, as long as you're catching all those layers and you don't have any like major pleats or tucks in there, you're gonna be just fine. To stay as close to that original size as possible, and sometimes it's just gonna stretch a smidge.
And then I sew through?
Yep. At least till you get through the bottom side. There you go. Beautiful.
Should I backstitch there?
You don't have to, because we're gonna top stitch it. So then now let's just take this over to the iron, fold this back. Look how it's coming together.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna fold this back and give it a good press. And then I think one of the things with clothing that makes a big difference is like the little details. And so we're gonna switch out your thread to this, and we can use it through the rest of this.
Okay.
We won't have to switch it back and forth. And then we're just gonna add some top stitching, and that's just gonna give you like a really nice finish. And we'll just do that like 1/8 of an inch from this seam, so that this will stay laying back, and it's gonna look really professional and nice on the finished shirt.
How's it look so far?
It looks perfect. You're doing amazing.
Okay.
All right, and so now let's bring that t-shirt back over here, because we can attach this back to the shirt. We can trim off those threads for you.
Thank you.
You bet. Beautiful. All right, and so again, this is kind of why we opened this up, because you're gonna have to then pin this in place to this shirt. And so we're gonna line up this edge, and we're just gonna clip all the way around.
Okay.
And we're gonna do the exact same thing we did before. And so I like to kind of do the 2 ends first.
Oh, this is wild. I'm gonna wear it with
I
pride.
hope so. It gives you a really beautiful finish. It's a really professional finish this way, and so I think...
Yeah, it makes people question if it came that way.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just gonna make sure this is laying nice and smooth. Add a few more clips all the way around. And so then now you're just gonna sew all the way around.
All right. My home ec teacher, Miss Hurley, actually was able to visit my store on King Street, and
How
she said
awesome.
it was a proud moment as a teacher.
I'm sure it was.
You know, I'm glad that later in life I remembered how happy, like, making things made me. Like, this is a lot of fun. I'm excited to do more and more. Okay.
Okay,
Getting there.
look at that. Your sleeve is coming back together. And so I am gonna go ahead and just trim off this little bit of excess really quick before we get too much further.
Okay.
And so I'm just gonna take my ruler here just to show you how forgiving it really can be. And we're just gonna roll this back and we're gonna cut a new line from there to our edge. And it's gonna work just great.
Wow.
And so same thing over here. We're just gonna ease that in. Here we go. All right, and so then just like we did before, we'll go ahead and press this and top stitch.
Okay.
And then we can turn it inside out and sew our seam back shut. Yeah, as long as you've got it close enough to get that line of stitching going, you'll be good.
All right.
Perfect. All right, look at that. All right, so you have the trickiest part done. And so now we can just turn this inside out again.
And you can wash this and everything just like a normal shirt.
Yeah. And if you had a serger, you could totally just serge straight down this like we opened. But if you don't have a serger, then we're just gonna use the sewing machine to just sew it closed. You do wanna make sure that these are lined up, your stripe is lined up. And so I'm just gonna clip those in place here.
Wow, for everyone watching at home, you can literally customize a long sleeve shirt.
You totally can.
With your patchwork. Just follow these steps.
That's right.
If I can do it, anyone can.
That's right. And so we are gonna ease in a little bit of this here where our stretch got kind of wonky. The beauty of this is this whole seam's gonna be hidden underneath.
Right.
Nobody's ever gonna see it.
Yeah.
So it comes back to, we're just gonna make it work. And then make sure you back stitch at the start and the stop.
All right.
All right, let's turn it.
All right.
Turn it inside out.
Let's see. That's crazy. I've always wanted to know how to do this, but I just didn't think I had the skill set.
You totally do. It looks awesome. Amazing.
There's the sleeve.
It looks so good. And of course you can give it a press for that last seam for it to lay a little bit smoother, but I think that looks awesome. And you did it.
We'll put the pocket back on and I'll try it on.
All right, let's do it. So here is our little patchwork that you made earlier for our pocket. And while you were busy, I went ahead and took a piece of that fabric that we used for our template, our sleeve template that we cut away, and I put interfacing on the back. So I have that done already. And of course, here's our template that we made of our pocket. And so I'm just gonna stack these together, right sides. And then I wanna make sure that I kind of have your sewing down south in the center. But then we are gonna cut a 1/4 inch away from our template on all 4 sides. I'm gonna use a smaller ruler just because it'll be a little bit more manageable. And so I'm just gonna lay this on here. And we can cut this out. All right, and so now I have kind of right sides together. And so we are gonna sew all the way around, but you're gonna back stitch here, make your way all the way around, and then leave about a 2-inch opening.
Okay.
Because we're gonna turn it right sides out.
Okay.
All right, perfect. And so then we're gonna clip those corners first, just to make it easier on us. And then we will turn it through this little opening. We'll just pull that through, and that's why we back stitch, you know, because then we can really tug on it. But look at that, so cute. All right.
That's amazing. Look at that.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna prank my partner Jerry and tell him that.
You guys are making these now?
Yeah. Avoiding the decal is important.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I should have reminded you again.
No, that's okay. You gotta learn sometime. So do I put my shirt through this?
So yeah, you'll want to pull off the little extension table.
Okay.
And then we are going to use the pins. Let's bring that over here. And we're going to pin this pocket in place. And because we seam ripped, you can really tell exactly where it needs to go. And so we're just going to put a few pins in here. And on this side, you're just going to catch that little edge when you're top stitching. So you're going to need to make sure that you're getting close enough to go through all those layers of fabric.
Okay.
So that's really the only trick when you're sewing these down. But I mean, if you just do the whole thing really close to that outside edge, which if you remember, that's how it was when you did the seam ripping, right? And so we're just gonna sew on these sides here and leave the top open.
Okay, and
so
how do you put it in your machine?
You're gonna open this up here and slide it under your presser foot. So you're only going through that first layer of the shirt, and then you just kind of rotate it under there.
Okay.
And start however is easiest for you. And then when you get to the top of the pocket, make sure you back stitch, just because that's where all the tension is going to be when, you know, if you're keeping any like candy and treats in your pocket. Beautiful.
Right. All right, I just got to get a couple of these threads cleaned up, but I think I'm ready for more. What do you think?
I think it looks awesome. Are you going to add some more to the other side?
I mean, I was nervous at first, but at this point, why not challenge myself? I think I got it.
All right, awesome.
This is, I mean, that looks like it came with the shirt.
It really does. It turned out awesome.
So now we'll add some stripes to this side and really embellish the heck out of this sewing down south shirt.
Exactly. I mean, you've already seam ripped this, so it would be a shame to not put those stripes in.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Well,
so
let's try to do some stripes.
All right, let's bring it over here and we'll cut it, and then you can just keep on going.
Okay. Right, almost finished.
Oh my gosh.
One last. Give it a little
Beautiful.
there.
All right, I can't wait to see it.
Look at all the work that we did on the shirt, though.
I know, it's pretty amazing.
It's pretty great. And then the sleeve in here.
Yep.
But to see how the stripes look.
All right.
Look at them.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Craig,
Oh,
it looks so good.
I might have to give this to my mom. But I want to wear it.
Well, I hope you will. Yeah. Oh, that turned out so good.
Okay, I can't wait. I'm going to put it on right now.
Okay, perfect.
Look at this.
Oh my gosh, Craig, it looks great. I hope you like it.
I do. I can't wait to do that. I mean, I'm going to do this on all my clothes.
Oh, that's so fun.
The quilt man.
I think it turned out really cool.
Patchwork. But they're going to call me Patch.
Oh, there you go.
No, I think this is really neat. And I hope everyone watching just realizes that if I can do it, they can too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what a fun activity to do with your family. And
it is.
And then if you wear your shirt, you're going to carry the memories. Like every time I put this on, I'll remember today.
Yeah, that we got to sit here and make this. It was so fun.
Awesome. So we've got the sawtooth star.
That's right.
Nice. And
your amazing patchwork shirt.
Embellished patchwork shirt.
Absolutely. And we'll have a little printable for people who want all these tips and tricks that we shared in an easy format that people can print off and have at home, so you guys can learn how to make these great projects.
Well, what's next? I'm hooked. What does that look like?
I mean, you need to make a table runner for
Yes,
your table.
I do.
You said that.
Yep.
And so I think you need to carve out some time and come back to Hamilton. Now that all of this has more meaning, come to the shops.
I would love to come to Hamilton, pick out fabric, and learn to make my table runner.
All right, well, come stay with me and my family, and I'll see you there. I would love it.
I'll be there before you know it.
All right, so tune in next time when Craig comes to Hamilton, and we'll make a table runner for his table.